Hello, hello. I think everybody is muted, but Jeremy with KBID is here. Let me see if I can.
Morning, everyone. Happy to have you.
Yeah, give a thumbs up if you guys can hear us. We see Jim. Very nice. If you want to turn your cameras on, great. If not, no worries.
Nice.
All right. Margot says good morning. Hello, Margot.
And we do have the chat and Q&A at the end, but we'll get a lot of questions today, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. And actually, everyone, hopefully you can open up a chat. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple links into the chat just so we have them so you don't have to type them out when I reference them. But basically what we're going to talk about today is Facebook marketing, marketing your auctions. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to walk through how we kind of set things up, what the ads manager looks like through Facebook. And definitely if you can, hopefully you have an account already. If not, then just feel free to follow along. It will be recorded, so you will get the event afterwards as well. But the biggest thing is this will be your opportunity to ask some questions if you've been in the Facebook Marketplace before. We are going to limit the questions though, because I definitely want to run through this once as a full setup. And then, at the end, within that hour, if we can get through it, we can have Q&A. If not, we'll just set up a follow-up again. The biggest thing is I want to respect everyone's time, but I also want to get through the setup and the creation of it so that you guys can reference it back on the video. And the people who cannot make it today also are able to get through the video without a 2-hour question and answer section, which it still would be pertinent to them. But a lot of times people just want the nuts and bolts. So we'll go through that. Welcome, TJ. Welcome, welcome. So if you haven't, if you guys can go to Facebook Market or in the link, there's a Facebook Ads Manager link that I put in there. If you don't have one, a Facebook profile, you do have to have a personal profile. It has to be attached to a personal page. That's Facebook's way of just trying to validate that you're human. They want to see you. They want to make sure that you're, online and you're giving quality information versus a spammer. So that's one prerequisite you have to have in order to have an ads manager account. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I already have my ads manager account open. Chris, go ahead and give me a thumbs up once my screen is being shared, or anybody. All right, perfect. All right, so right here is the ads manager. And actually, you know what, TJ, I'm going to test something. Can you unmute yourself and just say hi? Because I want someone, if you do want to chime in quickly, we want to hear you.
Yes, hello.
All right, perfect. Go ahead and mute yourself again. So guys, you can unmute yourself, but we try to mute everybody just so that there's not crazy background noise. But if there's a spot to where you just have a quick question, definitely feel free to chime in and then we get the conversation going. But to start out, here is what the ads manager looks like. Once you create it, it'll ask you a bunch of questions about yourself. Once you get verified, you can open up the ads manager. Right here is where you'll see which account. Some people have multiple accounts, like I have different KBID accounts for verification and security reasons. Chris has the same. So right here is where we want to get started. So campaign wise, I'm going to go through how we do it. So what we do is you click this create button here, and that'll open up a bunch of questions. The biggest thing here is we're not going to talk about every single thing, because what I want to do is get the nuts and bolts down and dirty so that you guys can take away or go away today and actually create one and not have to worry about all the other nuances that are involved in different variations. So for starters, if you're a beginner, this is more of a 101. I just want to show you, hey, if you do anything, at least do this for each and every one of your auctions. Budget wise is always up to you. We say the more the better, but obviously there's a spot where there's diminishing returns. But at a bare minimum, I would say $50 to $100 for every single auction. If it's a bigger auction, obviously go bigger. For us, we always recommend a minimum of 150. But if you're doing it yourself, and you just want something quick and dirty, put a minimum of $50, depending on what you think your total sales volume is going to be. All right, so starting out, what I want to do is tell you guys that always in the beginning, start with a traffic campaign. And the reason for this is what Facebook tracks is links, landing page views, Instagram visits, Messenger, WhatsApp, and all as well as calls. So these are kind of the main components to when you go back and reference your campaign. You want to see, hey, how many clicks clicked or how many impressions were shown for my creative? How many links were clicked in my ad? Because inside of the ad, you'll be able to see that you can put a URL in there, and then once somebody clicks it and actually goes to your page, that's actually a click through or a link click, versus a view is just somebody saw the image that you put on Facebook. So there's a couple differences between them, but to start out, I would say traffic. All right, that's the best one. And that's the one that gives you a little more stats than just awareness campaign. Now, again, all of these are valid. I'm not saying that they're not, but today I want to talk about just one. If we had to do one thing to get things going for each and every one of your auctions at a bare minimum, let's start with a traffic campaign. So this stays at auction, okay? To choose a buying type, don't worry about that. This is just saying, hey, you want to bid against everybody else that's bidding on the same traffic you are, keep it there. This reservation thing, don't worry about. So just keep it at auction. When you hit continue, it's going to ask you, hey, do you want recommended settings or manual campaign? I would always say manual traffic. Recommended settings, we can talk about another time, but this is basically Facebook saying, hey, we know better than you, which to an extent they do. They'll go out and find traffic for you. But the thing is a lot of the times they have certain things enabled to where they'll put your competitors inside of your ad as well. And you don't want that. You want your ad to be only what you want to show, not a bunch of other things surrounding your ad. So again, you can test these out when you get a chance, but for today's presentation, we're just going to go with the down and dirty nuts and bolts. Here's what to do starting out. So I would choose manual traffic campaign. Continue. So right here is important. You want to have a good naming convention based on how you're going to be setting up your campaigns. Obviously, each and every one of you have one auction company, or some have two. So you want to make sure if you have two auction companies, you want to just label this as your main, whatever auction you're running this for. So if this is running through M.A. Williams, then call it M.A. Williams. If it's running through auctions for businesses and services, label it auctions for business and services. So here we'll just put, let's do JMS. So this is your overall company name. And then inside of here, there's going to be a bunch of options. Let's leave those off for now. Again, Facebook's always trying to change things up and try to say, hey, now with AI involved, we're going to make shifts to what you create to try to differentiate you from others. Well, the thing is we've tested a lot of these AI functionalities and different image changes, and they are actually ugly. There's errors. They put stuff sometimes that aren't supposed to be there because the algorithm only knows so much. It does pretty good, but what happens is a lot of times you might have a used item and they'll put brand new, unopened, or something to that effect. And when you put your trust in AI, you kind of have to roll with what it does. You only are able to change so much before Facebook says, hey, we'll take it from here. And then they start just saying some random things that aren't true. So I would say keep these off for now. So Advantage Plus off. A/B testing. This we can get to another time. Don't worry about that. Again, this is down and dirty. Let's get an auction up. So we keep those off. Categories, you don't need to do anything with this unless you're doing some sort of like real estate deal. Facebook has a lot of restrictions in place to where it says, hey, if you're doing a certain type of auction, you can't limit age range. You can't limit type of person in terms of age, race, gender, so on and so forth. So for this, since we have general auctions, we always keep that just we don't have to have a special category. And they do pay attention to this because if you do have something that's presidential, for instance, or like a Trump coin or a Biden flag, well, you will get flagged. Facebook's really coming down hard on anything presidential. So I would keep that, I would not show those types of creatives. They can be in the auction sometimes, and you still are able to promote that auction. But if you highlight those items or images, they will flag you and turn you off. So in the special ad category, just leave blank unless you know for sure you're doing something like real estate or finding a job. You can choose that. But for the most part, for us, for our auctions, we leave it blank. We hit next. So this is actually what's called the ad set now. But first and foremost, before I continue, I also want to have a little interaction if needed. Are there any questions currently on the campaign setup? TJ, go ahead.
Just a general question. Every time you're building an ad, you're doing it here on PC. I was curious about that because in the past I've made the post on my iPhone and then turned it into an ad on the PC. So best practices there I'm asking for now.
Yeah, the best practice would bring it to a PC. If your phone is your only option, there are limitations to that. But once you do have a campaign set up, it is easier to go through your mobile phone to create an ad set versus a campaign in general.
But I think, sorry, the other thing that I used to do is you can do an organic post and then create that as an ad. Is that what you're talking about, TJ?
Correct.
And
That's what I've always done, and I don't know if I should continue doing that or if there's a much better way.
You get more like creative options. I'll let Jeremy get into that on the ads manager side. But if you have an organic post that kind of takes off, like there you kind of have your A/B test already. And to make that an ad, you can select that in ads manager too. And I used to do that quite a bit.
Yeah, so sorry about the DJ. Yeah, to reiterate what Chris was saying. Yep, if you're doing that, down and dirty, stick with what you're doing, but you do get more options when you are on the PC starting from scratch and creating your imagery, creating your audiences, insights. Lists, audience sections, as well as interest targeting. But again, if you're only doing one or the other or none, I would at least do one and that you can continue from your mobile. But definitely I would say work on the PC so you get an understanding of the differences a little more. I only do PC or Mac, whatever that is, but anything on a computer versus mobile. There's limitations on the mobile. So ad set name, what we do is we usually call this whatever the auction is. All right. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to KBID. Usually what I'm doing, just to show you what I mean by the auction is. So this auction is for MA Williams. Here's the auction ID up here. So we actually, to make sure that we have separation between them, we call the ad set as well as the ad the name of the auction, the auction ID itself. So I'm just flipping between the two tabs. You can do it any way you want, but I just do it right away so I don't forget. So again, the ad set name is the auction that I'm promoting. Again, if you were promoting something always equipment and you wanted to have an ongoing campaign, you can just call this equipment and not have to worry about an end date. But I'm just doing it auction by auction. Best practices is have an end date to that auction. So again, the ad set name, I'm calling it the auction that I'm promoting. The conversion activity here, because we're doing a traffic campaign, I would keep this at website. Again, there's different options. You can go through them on your own time, but to keep things simple, just choose website. This is saying, hey, you're wanting people to get to your website from this campaign/creative. When we scroll down here for performance goal, this is the next options. You can choose between maximize number of landing page views or the maximized number of link clicks. We actually vary it between both. We haven't seen a significant difference between, hey, what is generating more traffic? In the end, the biggest thing to auctions is the type of items that are on there and present. So there isn't a wrong option here. Again, feel free to test this out. And how we do that is we might run 10 auctions at maximized number of landing page views. And then we would look at the next 10 auctions at maximized number of link clicks and then see which one performs better. And in the end, the peaks and valleys really are about the items that are being shown. Because we never have the same exact auction every single time for 10 auctions, it's hard to A/B test this. But in the end, we use both of them. So there isn't a wrong answer. These don't worry too much about right now. Again, look over those at your own time. But starting out, do maximize number of landing page views or maximize number of link clicks. And I've had many discussions with Facebook reps, and they say the same thing. Some work for some, others work for others. There is no silver bullet here. Don't overthink it. Just grab one and go. Go ahead.
Really?
Go. I'm going to go ahead and mute. There we go. Somebody jumped on there. Next, so scrolling down here, again, this dynamic creative will be off. You can, look at that on your own time. Again, this is one of those to where AI will go ahead and change your creatives, and it might not look good and they'll still show it. So we always keep that off for now. But again, always feel free to test on any of these. We're just doing a very quick down and dirty auction creation. Daily budget here, or budget and schedule here, is where it matters. So a lot of the times, if it's a long duration auction or a large auction, I would say over 50 to 100,000, a lot of the times we run daily budget, but for the most part, auctions, we always have a lifetime budget, because what happens is when you all submit a marketing request, which I do have in the chat, if you forgot how to do that, there's a link up top to where you can request marketing. So hopefully you all remember how to do that. But basically, when you have a set budget, you're telling Facebook, hey, I have a certain budget, don't spend more than, $150 or $300 or whatever that may be. So a lot of the times what I want you all to do is do a lifetime budget, unless your campaign, that, it's going to be running a month long or 2 months long, like you want to do some sort of other lead generation campaign, then you could do a daily budget. But for the most part, because we know a start and a finish date for our auctions, we always do a lifetime budget, because we're telling Facebook to spend a certain amount of money every day, but don't go over the duration, or the amount of $150 that I told you to. So they will spread that out throughout the day. But there's also nuances to it. If they see that you're getting a lot of conversions, which are landing page views at a low cost, they'll actually give you a lot more budget in the beginning of the week than later in the week, because they might say, hey, based on our understanding of your campaign, if you've run campaigns before, you don't get very many link clicks or views on a Saturday, Sunday. We'll put more of your budget in the beginning of the week, like a Monday, Tuesday. So again, there is no rhyme or reason a lot of the time, but for the most part, your budget gets spread out when you choose lifetime budget, in which you want to make sure that your ads are being seen at any time of the day, as well as any day of the week until your auction closes. So I would use lifetime budget. Next is the start and end date. That's pretty self-explanatory. This is where you want to say, if your auction, when it starts, put the date and time here. And then the biggest thing is you want to make sure that you find your end date. So for instance, this auction, that ends on the 27th. So we would go ahead, choose your month, choose the 27th. One of the auctions that I'm looking at ends at 7:30. We always try to end budget within a half hour of the auction close, sometimes an hour, depending. But for the most part, you just want to make sure you exhaust your budget before your auction closes. Any questions on that?
Jeremy, for our standard, say we got a 2-week auction, when do we typically start the ad? Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, perfect. We usually start the ads between a 7 and 10-day period. Again, it all kind of depends on the type of auction, but for the most part, we want to get at a minimum of 7-day run rate to Facebook to get our ads out as much as possible. Now, again, sometimes if you only have 1 day, 2 days, 3 days to go, yes, I would still say get the auction up, because there's a lot of traffic on Facebook, and sometimes you just get those impulse bidders or watchers. They're like, oh man, that looks good, let me get on that. Now, again, is there better results for 7 days, 10 days, 15 days, 30 days? It depends. Again, it all depends on the auction. So we run everything, but from a general standard, we try to get a auction up within 10 to 7 days of auction close. Great question. All right, moving on from start date and end date. Right down here is what's called audience controls. So this is where you can put the location of your auction, the areas, the radius that you want to target, or statewide or nationwide, and then also the type of interest group you want to go after. Now you got to be careful with this. Well, starting out, I'll let you know that location, if you do shipping, you can open up your radius in terms of location on where you want to show your products to. If you don't offer shipping, then generally you have to look at your items and say, hey, how far would somebody generally be willing to travel in order to pick this up? Now, again, there's so many nuances to this. If you have, like lift equipment or machinery, trust me, somebody will travel a long way to save $40,000, but somebody's not going to travel 40 miles to buy a $3 item. So just be aware of that. So use common sense there. But a lot of the times for our auctions, if there is no shipping, we utilize, a 20 or a 30-mile radius. If there is shipping, a lot of times we do statewide, and depending on the type of items, sometimes we do multi-state. So an example of this is when we work with Your Boat Club, people travel statewide in order to save $10,000 to $15,000. So we do multiple state location, multiple states enabled in order to market our auctions. So for locations, you just click edit here. It gives you a drop down and you can go ahead and put what you want. You actually just type out. So for instance, an auction I'm looking at is in Eden Prairie. You can start typing and then it'll say, hey, do you want the city? Yes. And right away it defaults to 25-mile radius, I believe. Yep. And sometimes we keep that, again, depending on shipping or not shipping. And if it does not ship, but they have great items in it, sometimes we'll go up to 50 miles. And then you just type 50 in, hit enter, and then it will show you a radius there. And again, if they don't offer shipping, but it is a larger item that people will go ahead and travel for, you can either drop a pin to say, you know what, we usually do get a lot of folks from the Little Falls area coming to Minneapolis. Then you can type that in. It defaults to 10. You can change that to whatever mileage you want. Again, 50 miles, so that you can say, I want everybody in this corridor north of Paul, for instance. And again, if it's something where you want a different state, let's say they're traveling for a boat, then you can just type in South Dakota, and then it will say, all right, we're going to market to people in the South Dakota area as well. So again, feel free to play around with this. Good to know it. There is no wrong answer. The biggest thing is look at your lots, look at your items, and if you have something that you think people will travel for, then you definitely want to go ahead and expand that radius. If it's again smaller, like estate sale to where the highest priced item might be $100, I would stick with that 20, 30, 40 miles, depending on the type of items. Any questions there on that? All right, perfect. All right, so we'll scroll down. The next thing is age range. This one is big. You do want to utilize this. One thing that I want to preface here, though, is the more options or the more specifics you get on your campaign, the more expensive your cost per click or your cost per 1,000 impressions will be. So just remember that and notate that when you are working on your auctions. And an example of this is sometimes when we do an auction to where we just tell the system, hey, these are items that anybody wants. Let's open up nationwide. We will generally get like 3-cent cost per clicks or 8-cent cost per clicks. If we have a machinery auction to where it's only a 2-state or 3-state radius, and then we only want to go after machine shops, people in machinery, or people interested in machines, metalworking, then we end up seeing things happen. Cost per click becomes 18 cents or 21 cents per click. So just be aware of that. The more things you tell Facebook that are specific that you want to target, the more expensive it generally gets. So age range here, an example how we utilize this is vending machines. We're only looking for males generally that are 40 and above that are interested in a vending machine. That we found that those demographics hit best. So then where we would change it would be right here. We say, you know what, we want to only show this. And again, it's not going to be exact. Facebook will just say, hey, we will try to go after this type of audience. So then you just choose 40-year-olds here. And then 65 plus can stay, and then males. And those options definitely you want to play around with because, as you know, certain auctions, they have a larger interest group in male or female depending on the type. Another one is equipment. Sometimes we use men only for that in terms of excavators, skid steers, so on and so forth. But estate sales, it seems like depending on the lots, women definitely dominate. So definitely mess around with those options for you. Next is the placement section, or I guess, first, any questions on the audience targeting here? I forgot, I'm actually going to go up one more. Anything with age or gender let me know. But the next part here I forgot to mention is Advantage Plus or detailed targeting. You do want to look into this. So this is where you can actually kind of choose specific individuals that have an interest in your auctions. So for instance, this one I talked about vending machines. I would go in here and see if there's a interest group that is interested in vending machines. There are not. So then I say, you know what? Well, let's see if people are here that are interested in general auctions. You kind of just type what you're looking for, and then you can look at the interest groups that people are people are in the buckets. So you say, oh yes, I want to go after folks that had in the last 90 days looked at some sort of auction or selling on auction website or interest or creative or whatever Facebook has on it, imagery, other companies, they had an interest in auctions. They expressed interest in it or looked at something referencing auctions, then they fall into this interest group here. So I would say auction buying and selling is good. Online auction buying and selling is good. And you read over these little blurbs when you get a chance. I don't have to go over each one, but it basically tells you what it is. And there's a few different audience targeting that you can do, buckets, interest, employer, job titles, behaviors. Pay attention to the size of that list though over here, because sometimes like a job title, if you were to choose, yes, I want to go after every auctioneer. Well, as you can see, there's only 4,000 of them in the radius that we chose up front, or I mean above. So just be aware of your audience size. And generally what we want to see an audience size of is roughly around 1 million folks. Again, everything depends on the auction. So don't think too far into it, because sometimes if we had a very specific thing like heavy machinery that was I don't know, let's say it's a drill that you can only use to drill for oil. Well, we would go after job titles of potentially owners, managers, businesses that are well drillers for a specific category. And there might only be 1,000 of them, but getting in front of those 1,000 folks for a very specific item that they would only buy is way more important than sending this out to 1 million folks that are interested in retail returns. So again, please, I can't stress this enough, use common sense, but definitely look over all of these. Don't overthink it. If you have something that could fit or that somebody might buy, feel free to grab that interest group.
Can I interrupt for a moment?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at when you said about the age group for the pinball machines. Does KBIT collect any kind of information like that, or am I just going by what I have seen at my auctions?
Yeah, so because of privacy reasons, there's obviously stuff in the back end, like when people register, they have to, put in information in there. We don't necessarily collect it from an advertising standpoint. It's based on what you see when you're talking to people through pickup, and also what you've seen others buy. You kind of have to have a general reference to say, hey, I just had a vending machine auction. Basically, everyone who bought from me was 40 and above. Let's move forward with 40 and above on people that we want to go after. And it's not a hard, stead rule. That's kind of just, it's what you're seeing or feeling. We don't have any information.
I just thought I'd check to see if you guys had any of that kind of data.
Yeah, no, great question.
We do on analytics, like we have general, age ranges of our traffic. I think for Jeremy and I who've been in Facebook and ads manager for a long time, you just there's a feeling that you get and and then being in our age range too, like I know people in their 30s and 20s, are they collecting pinball machines? Anecdotally, I would say no. But yeah, some of that stuff you just kind of know by experience. And then there's a lot of best estimates here. And then Facebook does a lot of the work. Once you don't need to get so refined, once they see an ad is performing to this audience, it'll start showing that more to people that look like that. So that's why we try to go more general and then let the algorithm go ahead and refine that into who's actually going to click in and potentially buy.
Yep. But
Okay.
Janice, yeah, no, great question. But Janice, I was going to let you know, once you do create your ads manager and you do start promoting, there is analytics on the back end that you can look at too. It gives you a bucket, like it would say, 25 to 35 36 to 46, something to that effect. It gives you a general range, but it doesn't give you specifics on that. So yeah, you could. So if you said, hey, what was the age range that clicked or viewed my creative for this auction, it does give you a general understanding on the back end of analytics in the ads manager. All right. So that's Advantage Plus and detailed targeting. Definitely try some auctions without anything. Let the system do the work. And then also maybe test again if you have a similar auction with a very specific interest targeting that you might want to run.
We have one more question from TJ there.
Perfect.
On the Advantage Plus, I've used it before, and I wonder if, unless you had a super niche auction or item, seemed like all it did for me is just make it cost more and get less clicks or less clicks, because if you have a total budget, it just makes it cost more per click, is my experience. I don't know if that's anybody else's or not.
Yeah, and that is experience of most as well. But a lot of the times too, we want to go ahead and make sure that we only are showing to specific interest groups, because that potentially could lead to more quality clicks or impressions or / items watched or bids placed. But again, there is no wrong answer. There is no right answer necessarily. You want to do both. All right, so that's it for the ad set settings. So we're going to move on. We hit next. And here is where you're talking about your creatives. Okay. Again, like I mentioned, the ad name is the auction ID that we have. So it is the same as the ad set. So when you're looking at analytics, you can say, oh, what ad did I use for auction 60112? Because it looked like it had a high volume of clicks. Maybe you want to recreate that ad with new items for your next auction. So that's why the naming convention is like that. Facebook page, what you want to do is if you have a Facebook page, a company page, you want to make sure that you grab that. So for instance, this one here, we'll do KBIT Online. Well, it just so happens that KBIT also has an Instagram page. So you can say, hey, when I am marketing my creatives, I want to market on our Facebook page as well as our Instagram account. Again, it's more for verification. They're not necessarily saying we are going to market on your page specifically. It's just saying, hey, if people have other links somewhere that can be clicked, they could reference that this is a KBIT Online auction. It'll show a little icon on your ad based on what you're promoting. So definitely choose one of those. If you don't have one, you don't need one. You can choose not to have it. So for instance, like our auto auction, we don't have an Instagram account. It'll still let you run without it. So don't fear that. Move on. So the ad setup here, creative sources is the next option that you have to look at. We always use manual upload. Again, there's other options, Advantage Plus catalog ads. We don't worry about that right now when we're doing a specific auction targeting, because what happens is it'll pull other items for other auctioneers into your ads, into your creatives, and you don't necessarily want that. You want to show just your ad. You want to show just your lots. You want to show just your auction. So we always use manual upload. And then after that, they're going to ask you, okay, do you want a single image or a video, or do you want a carousel ad? Right now, just starting out, I would say just work with a single image. Again, if you have some experience, test both of these. Carousel does perform pretty well. And the difference between these two are a single image only shows one image of your auction. So you can have that be a collage of images, but it's only one image or one video. A carousel, what it does is it allows you to upload 10 images, and then people can swipe through your catalog or your images that you upload. But again, to start out, let's keep it simple. Let's say we're going to just do a single image ad. This is very important on this next section, multi-advertiser ads. You want to uncheck this. Facebook will always have it checked. And basically what's that saying is, hey, if you have an equipment auction, well, we're going to show Ritchie Brothers, Purple Wave, auction, other auction master auctions on your ad. So you do not want that. I don't know what Facebook's rhyme and reasoning is for this, because they say if you enable this, you'll be also able to potentially be in front of your competitors. Well, we found out that that doesn't work as well as everyone thought. So uncheck multi-advertiser ads. Make sure you do that, or else your competitors will be in your ads. And then from here, the next section is destination. This is telling Facebook where you want the auction to go, or where you want the clicker or the viewer to go once you go ahead and show them your ad. So what we do is we always build our URL. So click that link. As you can see, is we're going to put our auction URL here. Tracking purposes, you don't have to put any of this if you're doing your own stuff. This is how we always do it, so that when we look at analytics, we want to go ahead and say, hey, did this come from a Facebook ad versus organic Facebook? What was the campaign? What was the campaign name? So I'm going to fill this out just so you all know, and definitely if you want to, fill this out the same exact way. This is what's called a UTM parameter. It's giving Google Analytics or any other analytics tracker specifics on where people clicked and what campaign. Because once you have a lot of campaigns and ad sets and ad groups, you're going to say, hey, where did all this traffic come from? So when you look on the back end of Facebook Analytics, you'll be able to see, oh, I got the most traffic to my auction, 59931. So that's the reason to fill this out. If you don't care and you just want to get as many people as possible to your auction over and over, then you don't necessarily need this, but you'll always need your website URL, because that's telling Facebook where to send the clicker. What page is the clicker / watcher bidder going to? So we always use here at KBID, we use FB, which is just short for Facebook. It's a differentiator in analytics versus Facebook organic traffic. Organic and paid are completely separate buckets. So campaign medium, analytics always wants you to do CPC, which is cost per click. It's just an easy acronym that all the other analytic tools use to say that this is paid traffic. Now, again, if you were like, oh, why always just used paid traffic? Well, then you can type in paid traffic if you want. It's up to you. But again, to keep things simple, CPC is a great reference for the type of campaign that is sending traffic to this auction. And then the campaign name, we always just keep it simple. It's the exact auction ID number for that auction, so that when you're looking at things on the back end, again, once you get to do more of this, you'll understand the naming convention better. But it's just for an easy reference when you're looking at Facebook Analytics to say which auction performed best for me. When you're looking at a year, let's say you do 20, 30 auctions in a year, you can look back as an overview and say, oh, wow, auction 59931 performed best. And then you can just type it into your dashboard and you'll see what it is, versus you have to go and scroll through each and every URL on the Facebook platform and then say which one performed best. So naming convention is very, very important. Again, we use this every time. FB, Facebook, it's a short acronym, but analytics references as paid, versus if you were to spell out Facebook like this, analytics references this as organic traffic. So if you want it in the right bucket, go ahead and just put FB. CPC, short acronym for cost per click. Right here, campaign name is just the auction ID of which auction it's for. Willa, let's see, you have your hand up. Sorry about that if I missed it earlier. Go ahead and unmute yourself though. Yeah, you gotta, let me see. Hold on, Willa. I can't unmute you. Willa, you have to unmute yourself, yep. Yeah, just click the little mic icon up top. There you go.
There we go.
All right.
Okay. No, I didn't want to interrupt your flow and didn't know where to fit in, but it's something you and I touched base on briefly in one of our phone conversations. And as far as where you want this to land, remember I told you about, our website it's an auction and real estate company. And I had trouble getting boosting posts, getting ads on Facebook for auctions, because if it lands on our web page, they think it belongs in a special ad category. And how I've avoided that is to use the URL that goes directly to the auction, but now I'm not driving any traffic to my own website. Do you remember talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two things there. The first one is if you put a special category under your website, you would be able to market that. It's just Facebook would have to go ahead and verify again that you're doing it the right way. The other option is, to be honest, we always tell everyone, and we also want everyone to send traffic directly to the KBID URL because it's 1 or 2 less clicks that they have to do in order to get to the items that they're looking for, whether that be to register for them, to watch them, or to bid on them. But to answer your question, you're not getting as much traffic to your current website. Yes, that's the kind of decision you'd have to make. You could also generate different campaigns to get items to your, or I'm sorry, traffic to your website, such as, sell with us, or you could say, hey, look at some of the things that we've done before from a lead generation standpoint. So there's no easy answer there. But yes, you're going to run into that from time to time for not being able to market to your website unless you put a special category, or if you're sending people.
Yeah. You said unless I put a special category on my website.
Nope. Once you're in Facebook, there was that special category we talked about in the beginning to where it says real estate or presidential or employment. All you have to do is choose real estate there, and then it'll allow you to go ahead and do it. You can send traffic to your own website, your own URL.
Okay, so just check it regardless of whether I'm only marketing an auction and not.
Yes, because even if you didn't have a real estate auction at that time, the algorithm / system will automatically say, hey, they're selling real estate. We're going to automatically say you can't promote because they found one time that you did a real estate auction. Yeah. Or selling real estate in general. Yep. So
or even just having realty in your business name, in the Facebook business name. I mean, the algorithm's not perfect, and it'll shut it down. And the bad part about that, when you choose the real estate category, your targeting kind of is limited to about like 10% or maybe less of what you can actually target.
Yep.
It's tricky.
Yeah. And, and a lot of us are in this category. We have an auction and real estate company combined, and they complement each other. And so you want to drive traffic to your website because, somebody who sees how you market your auctions may remember you when it comes time to sell their house as well.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And so it's really, really frustrating. We're driving at our expense all the traffic to an auction and not getting any benefit for the other end of our business. And I haven't had an opportunity to talk to many auctioneers who are in the same position, but I would think that it's a frequent issue.
Well, I understand that for sure. We look at it from our perspective. It's like, if the goal is to get conversions to bid on that auction, that is the way to do it. If you have alternative goals to get more branding into your website, that's just a trade-off that you'd be willing to make.
That's purposes then.
Yeah.
No, I get it. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. So now moving forward here, I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. And then what that does is, if we were to copy this URL, just so you all can see it, it does have what's called the UTM parameters. Everything that we listed there gets appended to that URL. Don't worry about it. People don't pay attention to this. It's still, it's just a link that people click on your Facebook ads. Don't worry about the ugliness. But in the end, when somebody goes to it, they go to the auction that will end up having this UTM. This UTM gets sent over to analytics that says, here's the information when I want to dive into it on where these bidders came from on my ad, basically. All right, so that's the website URL. Again, what we recommend is sending all paid traffic for your auction to your KBID auction ID. Again, you can do what you want. It's your business, but in the end, we've found, quickest to lead or register or item watched is sending people directly to the auction you're promoting. So moving down here, browser add-ons is the next section of the ad. You hit none. You can look at these on your own time. These are just different types of activities that people and how they can get to you. Just put none here. You don't have to worry about it. Unless you want to receive calls on your auction, choose calls. If you want to have Instagram direct messages, choose Instagram direct. Again, down and dirty, choose none for browser add-ons. This next section is the ad creative. This is where you actually are telling Facebook, I have created an ad or a video for this auction to promote. So I'll go ahead and just grab an ad here. They have changed a lot of this setup on Ads Manager, so pay attention closely to this. None of this will come up for you unless you manually do it. But as of recent changes, Facebook is trying to create links for you. So I wouldn't trust any of this unless you created it yourself. So for the ad setup, you can keep your UTM, X out of all of these auction links. Because again, this is Facebook trying to say, hey, we're going to put some items that you may have had before on some of your auctions. And to be honest, we found that Facebook sometimes will put closed auctions or closed lot items on these. So I would always remove these unless you yourself manually put them on there. And what this is a site link is just like it shows here. If you were to have an ad, somebody like you had multiple auctions, which sometimes, again, it's good, but I want you to first start running on a single auction first. If you have multiple auctions, you could put your main image ad here that runs to your affiliate page, and then you could have multiple auctions listed. But in order to do that, you have to have different links for each and every one of those auctions, which you would have, but you have to manually enter those. Because if you allow Facebook to do that, it might take other KBID auctions because it's a KBID URL and put them here. And in the end, when you're creating and paying for something, you want to only show your stuff. So dive into that on your own time, and we can talk about that at another time as well. But for right now, I want to get through auction creation. So that's what site links are. Is it just says, hey, I have multiple auctions. If somebody's interested in multiple auctions of mine, click one of these links. But you have to manage these links yourself. Don't allow Facebook to create these for you. And then the next section here is the URL for the site links. We're not going to worry about it. We just hit next. And then this is where they're asking us to upload an image, okay? So you upload an image. You say, you know what? I have a classic car auction happening. Add that. Okay, so right here, I'm going to choose this one. You hit next. Here's the media for placement that you want. So it gives you a few options on, hey, how do you want this item to look when people are viewing it? A lot of the times we only make one size, and then we go ahead and say, hey, show that full size versus the type of size of the ad itself. And the reason for that is because unless you truly were ready to make 50 different image sizes, it's not worth creating 50 images for different sizes, because Facebook will go ahead and put your image the best it can in the size available. So for instance, this 1:1, this is the perfect size. This is 1080 by 1080. Well, they'll say, hey, sometimes there's people on a mobile phone. Do you want to use the same image you just upload? And we say yes, because we say, you know what? I don't care if there's a little gray box sometimes in front. I would rather show on mobile and look halfway decent than not show on mobile at all. And they could say, all right, well, we could take your image and stretch it for you if you wanted, but look at that. You don't want your ads to look like this. You want to just always choose original for all of these. Again, we could have huge discussions on this, on how many options to create, how many creatives to create. Honestly, we found it's not worth it to make 10 to 12 different creatives. And 80, and it will show halfway decent. Here's an option for another one, horizontal. This is what would show if you didn't create a specific creative. So always just choose original and make sure you make your creatives 1080 by 1080. And that's pretty much universal. It'll show on all options. It'll just sometimes show with a gray box. This just says, hey, you didn't utilize the creative size exactly to the proportions we told you. So we're going to crop the area that isn't shown. No big deal. It still shows halfway decent. If you looked at this ad on a mobile, it still looks good as well. People are, they're kind of used to seeing something out of the, this crop section here. No big deal. So use all original. Questions there? Willa, I see your hand up. Unmute.
I'm sorry, I forgot to shut it off the last time I had it up.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, no worries. Any questions on creative? Because I know this can be confusing, but again, as long as you stick with 1080 by 1080 and you choose, original, you will be seen in all options. And I'll show you some examples here as we go on. All right, perfect. So what you want to do is you want to hit next. Here's where what shows on the ad itself. So primary text is something above your creative, and headline is below your creative. So what we'll do is we'll just put here so you can see what it looks like. Don't worry, don't put description. You can choose a button if you want. A lot of times we only use learn more because the rest of these don't really pertain to us. If we have something like a ton of retail returns or certain state sales, we do say shop around. But for the most part, it's learn more. It's just a CTA that everyone's kind of used to. It's not intrusive. Shop now. Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to go buy anything right now. So you can mess around with these. You can choose what you want. If you do have a video, feel free to put watch more. A lot of the times, unless you don't have more video, no need to put that. But for the most part, we always use learn more or shop now. So we'll just stick with the learn more. It's more of a default. You hit next. And then this is, the Advantage Plus part that we said keep off. This is just Facebook saying, hey, are you sure you want to keep this off? Because if you looked at image animation, sometimes it can make your creative look like crap. So play around with it if you want, but for us, we usually keep this off. And then right here, they populated it. We'll go to advanced preview so you can see a bunch of the options that we're talking about. Here's where the primary text goes. Here's where the headline goes, just so you know where, when somebody's looking on Facebook or Instagram, where it goes. Again, here's where the headline goes. See how they create different variations of your ad. Remember, we only uploaded one creative, but they're going to give us like 30 different variations of it. And I'll scroll down here so you can see more. Now, this was the gray part that I told you. See, we always just stick with the 1080 by 1080, and then Facebook and Instagram will put it where it needs to be so that you can see the whole creative. Now, one thing that I want to call out is sometimes they will, in the platform itself, Facebook and Instagram, put all these things over your ad, like to learn more, follow us here. You really can't do nothing about that unless you really want to make your ad, your creative very small. We found sometimes things get covered. People find what they're looking for. So for consistency's sake and for convenience sake, feel free just to utilize that one creative. But if you are a creative person and you want to make 15 different variations, I'm all for it. And then just wanted to show you few other things on how it looks. So right here is like if somebody's on Facebook Marketplace, for instance, you're going to see kind of just a smaller ad, but it captures people's attention. All right. So that was just us previewing the ad. So now that we entered all of our information, we have the primary text. You want it, that's a must. Definitely always fill that out. If you want it, it does give you the opportunity to create more of them. But we just filled out one for now. But always have a primary text, always have a headline. And then call to action, that's up to you. We utilize, learn more majority of the time. And then scrolling down here, there's some of the, tracking if you want, but because there's not necessarily, if you're sending traffic to your own website and you have tracking enabled, feel free to click this. If not, just leave this empty. It'll come over to the KBID side and there's tracking in place from our back end. But for the most part, that's pretty much it on creation. And once you finish up with your primary text and description, you just hit next or publish, and then it will go live. It takes a little bit, 15, 20 minutes sometimes, or even a day, up to a day if you have a brand new account to actually publish. So be aware of that. But once you start getting a history with Facebook, a lot of our campaigns are, once we actually hit publish, it goes live within 5 to 10 minutes. we do still have some that take 30 to 45 minutes to an hour, but for the most part, they're being launched in 5 to 10 minutes, meaning it goes through the verification process. Facebook's algorithm goes and looks at your URL to make sure there's not things on there. An example of that is if we ever try to, there's a gun, like a real gun or a firearm in the auction, even though it's hidden on lot 287, Facebook recognizes that and they will decline your social ad. So just be aware, firearms, ammunition, all that, Facebook will shoot you down and cut you off very fast. So I wouldn't recommend it, but you're always, feel free to try when it's your account. For the most part, that's, I'll stop sharing now. I want to open it up to questions or even just some other general questions you might have. We have 5 more minutes, but we also aren't going to go too hard because I want this thing recorded so that people can get down and dirty on how to create a campaign, ad set, and ad.
Yeah, we could probably go for 4 hours on.
Yeah,
on
just
this.
general.
And Facebook changes. I mean, I haven't been in a while, and every time I go back, it looks different. So that's the tricky part. So I think going through just the basics is helpful because that can get you an ad created and an ad out. One thing we didn't touch on either, like this doesn't have to be just auction promotion. This could be for your other business. This could be for sellers locally. Like, hey, I'm getting a consignment auction together with beer signs. Okay, I want to go hyper local, 10 miles. Pick the age and the gender that you think might have beer signs, which most of us would be able to guess, and put some good creative in there. Consignment auction coming soon. Try that out for $100. See what you get, but track your results as well. I don't want to take up too much time here. So
yeah.
Go for questions.
And then also along with that, there's also other lead generation options. Maybe we'll go over on another time, but everybody should also be creating a lead generation campaign / consignment lead gen form if you do take consignments, but that's for another time. Again, if anything you take away from this, get your ads set up, get your ad manager set up on the PC or computer, and then create your first auction and put money towards it. Even if it's as minimal as $50 for a week or whatever that may be, just get acclimated and comfortable with going back there and creating each facet of a auction campaign. Last call for questions, and then we're going to cut this off. Yeah, Kirsten, you got something, or just saying bye? Okay, if you guys have anything, definitely just unmute yourself. You got to unmute yourself.
The mic in the upper right-hand corner.
Nice, good to see you, Ken. Welcome aboard. All right, Janice, John. All right, Terry, Troy, Rodney, Jennifer. All right. Well, if you guys do have any other questions or additional info might be needed from your end to your specific scenario, feel free to reach out to me. All my information is on the website, or you all should have it, based on marketing requests sent. And I'm more than happy to help it. And also, honestly, if you needed, and we needed to kind of do a little more hand holding for your first one, I'm more than happy to set up a webinar with you, and we can do it together. I know, Willa, your specific situation, might need a little more hands-on or more manual touch. I'm more than happy to do that. What I'll do is I'll set up a calendar invite with you, but definitely reach out to me yourself so that I can get something going. But for now, appreciate your time. We're going to continue to do these. We'll have the next topic here for you soon, and we'll get on your calendars. But for the most part, let me see. There's a react. See up top in the middle of your webinar, there's a react button. Show me that this was good, or else we might not do it again. So I need a little love. I need a little love from my online pals. All right. Okay. Good. All right. Excellent. Appreciate that. All right, everyone. Again, if you need anything, feel free to reach out to me. If it's something that's specific to Chris, reach out. But we are here. We're going to continue to do it. Right now, we do have to do more marketing than ever because there's so much noise, as you all know, with the AI side. And also every other auctioneer / auction company is coming after us because they know that we are the big fish right now. So the more that we can do individually, the better and the higher our ship will rise, because a rising tide raises all ships. So let's make sure and make KBID continue to be number one. All right, folks, that's all. Have a good one. We'll be in touch. Appreciate your time. Create those ads, create those campaigns. All right, later.